hello. Welcome to Melbourne AWS User Group Meetup number 151 for August 2025. Yeah, we're over that 150 hump. Woo! So, why is my laptop not doing the next? There we go. No, go back. My laptop apparently is just being very slow. There we go. Cool, so I'd like to start off by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the country throughout Australia and the connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to the elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today. So, for those of you who have not been here before, this will be news. For those of you who have been here, just a reminder, we do have a code of conduct for those that attend these events. The TLDR of this is pretty simple. Do unto others kind of thing here. You know, be nice to each other, treat each other with respect, not particularly complicated. The full code of conduct is available on our website if anybody has any questions. If you have a concern about the code of conduct or something you've seen, something you've heard, come and reach out to one of the organisers, myself, Jason or Rob up the back, and we'll have a conversation with you in private. So, if everybody's abiding by the code of conduct, we should all want to engage with each other because we are an awesome community. And we can do that through one of these options, not Mastodon. We're sort of working on that one. Really, at the moment, it's LinkedIn, YouTube, Slack, and the website. So, you know, feel free to come and join our Slack group, reach out to us on LinkedIn, tag us if you're doing a LinkedIn post, you found something interesting from tonight, all of those sorts of things. As far as tonight, introductions with moi. You then have What's New segment, also with moi. We'll then have Jason get up and give a presentation on pole position with AWS Ops. This is a redo of his presentation from AWS Sydney Summit, so it's a good one. We then have Dale and Mahesh getting up to do agents in action, building cloud-ready agents with AWS Strands. So if anybody's been looking at the new, Strands agents and going, "Ooh, I wonder what that's about. I wonder what that does," hang around and we'll all learn together. We'll then have our traditional marketplace segment. We'll have a little bit of a, who's hiring, who's looking for a job, those sorts of things, and have us all wrapped up by 8 o'clock so that we can all go home and hopefully dodge the weather. We'll see how we go. As I said, if you have any questions, Slack, YouTube, in the chat section, feel free, post them there. We'll call them out. And if you've got any questions for the speakers, we'll make sure they get asked. We would like to thank our sponsors. Without our sponsors, these things could not happen. Our gold sponsor, Mantel Group, because apparently I have just gone bye-bye for some reason. Apparently we've just lost all our projectors. There we go. No. I'd like to thank gold sponsor, Mantel Group, our silver sponsor, Civo, and our venue sponsor, NAB. As I said, without these organisations contributing, we wouldn't be able to put these events on month after month. So we thank them for their continued commitment throughout the course of 2025 and hopefully belong. Again, plug, Slack. You haven't heard? We're on Slack. You should talk to us on Slack, right? Slack. There is more than just what's going on here. We've got our announcements channel, our outages channel. If you're sitting there going, why is AWS doing something weird? Jump on the outages channel. Chances are there's somebody there complaining about it, not just you. Volunteers, if you're sitting here going, wow, this is an amazing event. I totally want to spend more time with these people and donate some of my time to make it an even better event. Volunteers channel, reach out. We'll also post messages there when we're looking for people to give us a hand setting up chairs, help us with the website, help us with some graphic design stuff that we've got coming up, all of those sorts of bits and pieces. Looking for a job, there's a jobs channel. And then just general chit-chat, all of those sorts of things. Again, remember the code of conduct, be nice to each other. Don't make us come in there and, give you a virtual, slap on the wrist. Speaking of getting involved, speakers, we are always looking for speakers. If you have ever if you find yourself sitting there and going, oh, I'd love to get up and give a presentation, come and talk to me. Right? Go to the website, submit a form. If you are sitting there going, I wonder what's involved in speaking at an event like this, go to our YouTube channel, go back to our January session and watch the video where we walk through, February session, sorry, on what's involved in giving a presentation, some tips and tricks, all those sorts of bits and pieces. Sponsors. We have sponsors, but we would like some more. Sponsors enable us to do more things. So if you're a company with too much money and you would like to get rid of some of it, we are more than happy to take it. Again, talk to me. I can give you many ways in which you can give me money. And we've spoken about volunteers. So, we are not the only game in town, however. Obviously, there's the big conference in December, reInvent in Las Vegas, because everybody wants to go to Las Vegas. 1st to the 5th of December, you know, they'll talk about a bunch of AWS things, probably announce some new products, some new services. I'm sure there's a new instance size for just about everything. You know, and I'm fairly certain there's going to be a bunch of talks on Gen AI, guessing. Something a little bit closer to home, Wednesday, the 10th of September at Mantel office down on Flinders Street. AWS Programming and Tools Meetup. Our very own Ian is going to be presenting on something. He's pretty sure it's Agent Core something. When he finishes writing it, he'll let us know and I can update the slide. But yes. It'll be good regardless. He's putting a lot of effort into it, I know that. Also next month, 1st of September, 6 p.m, right here in fact, in this very spot. The Melbourne Serverless Meetup is having a special event. They have Eric Johnson flying in from the United States to give a presentation on agents at scale. Serverless architecture approach to deploying agents in AWS. This should be a really good event. So if you haven't already, jump up on meetup.com, register your interest. As I say, Monday night, 1st of September, so that's like next week. So, you know, if you're sitting there going, oh, I wonder what I'm going to be doing next Monday night, yeah, come back here. Right, with all of that, time for what's new in AWS land. Normally I'd invite somebody to come up and give this, but that's going to be me. So, what is new in Melbourne over the last 30 days? Well, Bedrock came to Melbourne. So if you're sitting here going, man, I want to hear more about Gen AI. I haven't heard enough Gen AI this year. You can now use it close to home. You better not want to use many models because there aren't many models available in the Melbourne region. But Bedrock is there, so you can facilitate running models in other regions. And MSK expands support for Graviton 3-based M7G instances for standard brokers. So if you're in the MSK space, you can now do that in Melbourne as well. Melbourne's getting to the point where it's fairly close to parity-ish with a lot of the other regions. So we're starting to see the announcements become less exciting. In Sydney, Sydney obviously still gets more love than Melbourne for reasons. Amazon Connect Lens now supports external voices. Yay, if you're in that sort of thing. And then new i7i instances and the new P5 single GPU instances for your H100 card. So if you're sitting there going, man, I need to be training my own models because I have too much money and I don't want to have to give it to the user group, I want to give it to AWS, you now have a way to do that in the Sydney region. And you get to train your own model at the same time. In the databases space, bulk heaps of stuff. Some of this is going to be really, really cool to those of you who happen to be using Postgres or DynamoDB. For everybody else, this is probably just a wall of boring text because databases, yay, I guess, sort of. DynamoDB, supports granular throttling. DynamoDB adds support for console to code, which is kind of nice. Means you can do your ClickOpsy and then transition into IAC without a whole heap of work, which is kind of nice. Aurora Serverless gets performance improvement. Of course, if you're already using the small instances of Aurora Serverless, that doesn't mean you can save money using the big instances. Are you sure you want to be using serverless? I didn't say that. RDS SQL Server now supports Kerberos authentication. So, if you're one of the SQL Server administrators going, yeah, you're probably a little more happy now. And then IO2 Block Express now available in all commercial regions, which, if you're using Block Express, again, kind of cool. EKS got some much needed fixes for pains in life. Enable namespace configuration for AWS and community add-ons, so you can now configure your Kubernetes namespace at time of deployment, which is kind of nice because you're not stuck with their defaults. Also, add safety controls to prevent accidental deletion of a production cluster, which, again, kind of nice to not accidentally have that disappear on you. ECS console now supports real-time log analytics via CloudWatch log live trail. They've got to get better at naming things. They really do. Like when the product name takes up 2/3 of a line on my slide, it's too long. Yeah, you could. Mount point for Amazon S3 CLI. Your driver accelerates performance and supports SE Linux. So if you've been sitting there going, man, you know what my Kubernetes clusters need? The ability to write directly to an S3 bucket. Yeah. Yeah. That now doesn't suck as bad. So, yeah. Don't configure your containers to mount S3 buckets directly. I don't see why that. In the machine learning space, because again, machine learning, yay! Q Developer CLI announces custom agents. That was back at the beginning of the month. Bedrock Data Automation supports languages other than English now. So French, German. So if you've got documents sitting in other languages, you can now actually process them. Amazon Q Business launches Agentic RAG to enhance accuracy and explainability. We've got Claude Sonnet 4 large context window. That's gone from 200,000 to 1 million tokens. So if you've been sitting there going, I want to spend more money on Claude, you can now do that. Speaking of money, SageMaker AI now supports the P6EGB200 Ultra servers. If you have ever sat there and gone, I wonder what a server with 72 GPUs in it looks like, yeah, one of them. I don't know and I don't want to look, but I'm going to say expensive. Very expensive. It's one of those, hey, if you need it, I'm sure you're glad you can now get it, but for the other 99.999% of us, yeah. Claude Opus 4.1 now available on Bedrock, OpenAI, Open Weights. I'm sure you guys all saw those announcements over the course of the month. You get one day, you get the other one the next day. Let's try and one-up each other. In the networking space, AWS Client VPN now supports connectivity to IPv6 resources. Again, another one of those. If you need it, you're excited. If you don't need it, you don't care in the slightest, because you're either in the IPv6 space or you're not. VPC now supports IP4 ingress routing for large IP pools. If you have ever sat there and gone, man, I wish I could route more traffic to an ENI because the 10 IP addresses that I'm hard limited to aren't enough, you can now route entire IP spaces to a single ENI. Look, this is actually kind of useful in the IoT space and some other networking security stuff. But again, yeah, if you haven't run across it, you probably don't care, but yeah, it's now a thing. In serverless space, Lambda now supports GitHub Actions to simplify function deployment. Yay, about time. Lambda response streaming now supports 200 megabyte response payloads. Don't have your Lambda function respond with a 200 megabyte payload. Just don't do it. The fact that you can now is a little bit like, cool, but don't. Yeah, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Batch now supports Graviton-based spot compute with Fargate. So nice way to save yourself a bunch of money in your batch process. So one of those again, batch can be a little bit, like batch is nice, but it can be a little bit expensive. So the ability, if you're just pocking around, stuffing around, you want, Gravitons, cool, make it easy. Fargate, easy. Spot, cheap. We like where this is going. Security, IoT Core now supports customer managed keys. Cool for those of us who have been sitting there banging our heads against a brick wall. Certificate Manager supports AWS Private Link. Again, yay, that should have already happened, but it does now. And Microsoft AD increases directory sharing limits. Again, one of those things, if it's been a pain point for you, you jumped for joy when it was announced, and for everybody else, we'll just move on to storage. S3 introduces a new way to verify the content of stored datasets. Yay. S3 Express One Zone now supports resilience testing with fault injection service. This one's actually interesting because by definition, Express One Zone is kind of not fault tolerant. So you kind of want to make sure that the application can handle that. So kind of nice that you can now see what happens when a single AZ environment disappears. FSX ONTAP now supports decreasing your SSD storage capacity. Nice for those of us who are stuck running Windows workloads on EC2 instances that need shared storage. You can now have a little bit more control over tweaking that after you've deployed it. If you've seen the bill, you know. S3 Access Points now supports tags for attribute-based access control. Well, yeah, Access Points now supports tags for attribute-based access control as opposed to S3 buckets supporting attribute-based access. You can now use your attribute-based access control through your access point. So how's that for an announcement that's half backwards? In the dev and ops space, announcing AWS Billing Cost Management MCP server, because we have more MCP servers. AWS has a lot of MCP servers now. If you are in the agent MCP space and you haven't already looked, go have a look. I think they're up to about 52 or 53 of them. Some are very cool. Some of them are less useful. The diagramming one's actually better than I thought it would be. Go in, have a look. Look, MCP servers are a nice way to get a bunch of functionality for relatively low engineering effort, and the fact that you can now tie into billing and cost management, the ability to throw some very natural language questions at your cost management is an interesting proposition to get some high-level data relatively quickly if you need to, answer those annoying emails from customers. So, interesting possibilities there. It's going to be one of those, let's pock it up and see how it works. A couple of other interesting ones there. Billing and cost management got a bunch of love around, it now provides recommendations. It's got customizable dashboards now. Systems Manager enhances the runbook execution control, updates free tier. You can now do more for less. Yay, that's what we like to see. Resource Explorer supports filtering of multiple values. Nothing like being able to, have multiple values for a filter as opposed to a single one. And System Manager Run Command now supports, parameters into environment variables. So again, gives you a little bit more option around how you use Systems Manager. It's nice to see that Systems Manager still getting a lot of non-AI focused love. If only we had a talk about that at some stage. That's not a lead into Jason's talk at all. Finally, some other stuff. This is just bits that don't really fit anywhere else. Amazon Connect launches an API for real-time positioning in a queue. So if you have an Amazon Connect instance and have wanted to say you are caller number 5 in the queue, congratulations, you can now actually do that in Connect out of the box as opposed to having to write your own Lambda functions and a bunch of hacky rah in order to make it do what every other IVR on the planet has been doing for years. It's only a little bit of a dig. While we're on a little bit of a dig, Console mobile app now offers access to AWS support. So if you're one of those people who use the AWS Console app on your mobile phone, because nothing says managing $100,000 a month AWS spend like a mobile app, you can now access support via it. Yay! Again, it's one of those things, like if you do legitimately use your mobile app, and I do know a lot of smaller, mid-sized businesses that do, this is actually a really cool thing. Like, the ability to access support is good. When you read it as a feature announcement, it just sounds funny. It just, yeah. What else have we got? Connect now provides out-of-the-box embedding of tasks and emails into your website and application, so gives you a little bit more functionality. Connect is very quickly becoming your sort of whole of business communication mechanism now that Pinpoint and all of that is becoming less of a thing. And then, because I've been playing with it, Deadline Cloud now supports Cinema 4D and Redshift on Linux service managed fleets. Deadline Cloud is their AWS's render farm as a service. So if you've been sitting there going, man, I'm trying to build the next Pixar and don't want to have to buy all my servers, Deadline Cloud's your option there. And that is it. That is everything that happened in AWS over the last, well, it's not everything, but it's all the interesting things that happened in AWS over the last month. So with that, I will get out of your way so you can actually listen to some interesting people as opposed to just me. I will pass it over to Jason, who is going to give us a presentation on, yes, AWS Ops. I had to stop and think there for a minute. Now, I asked Jason earlier today how he wanted me to introduce him, and it's basically just, yeah, that guy. So, you know, listen to that guy. Yay!
That would work. All right, so this is a little bit of a rehash of a talk that I gave at AWS Summit, and talking about some of my favourite ops tools. So who am I? If you've been here before, you've seen me, so I'm all those things, and I'm working at Versant. If you want to connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn, JasonWood01. That's me, but you don't want to hear me. So I've got a question. Who here likes Formula One? All right, we've got a few people. That's good. Who's been waiting for the summer break to end? Yeah, so it's coming to a close now. But I thought I'll throw in a little bit of an F1 theme for people, so you know, try and help you get through this this break. Who likes to save money? Yeah, okay, we've got a few more hands there. So first little bit, I'll call this one "Park it when you don't need it." This nice little graph that you see here is how much money that your F1 teams have to spend. It is a little bit of money that they have. I'm sure they would also like to save money. So when we're talking about your EC2s and your RDS, don't pay for things if you're not using it, right? If you've got dev workloads and your developers aren't working through the night, or potentially even prod workloads, if you don't have a 24-hour business, right? Don't run them. Don't pay for them. There are various options to do this. You can set up Lambdas, you can event bridge triggers. One of the things that I'm really into at the moment is utilizing state manager associations. It's a really easy way to configure this. Use AWS documents. They've got them for EC2 stop and EC2 start. They've got a document for RDS stop and start. Just plug those things in, put in your cron job. You can configure it based on tags, which is really nice. So you just tag the things, and if you don't want something to shut down, just change the tag value. And AWS manages it all for you. You just need to set it up once, and you know, unlike Lambdas, you don't need to worry about making sure that you're on the right versions or any code updates. It's easy, it's nice, and you can also configure it with CloudFormation. So why do you want to do this? The other two numbers that I've got up here, right? 1 year, no upfront, R7i. If you're looking at like reserved instance or EC2 savings plan, you'll save about 34%, which is pretty good, right? But if you're only running, say, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday to Friday, you're only running for 33% of the week. So for my non-prod workloads, things that I don't need to run, I would rather only spend 33% than save 33%. But there are some issues if you are using state manager associations, right? They're not big issues because you configure it sort of once, but the big thing that will get you is cron is a little bit different, right? If you're just doing something every day, you can use an asterisk wildcard to run Monday through Sunday. But like I had back here, if you just want to run Monday through Friday, unfortunately they don't have the day range. So you'll need to do a Monday stop and a Monday start and a Tuesday stop and a Tuesday start and so forth. All right, a little bit of a pain, but again, you set it up once, and if you're using CloudFormation, you just use that same block and just copy that through and just change the date. So not a big deal, but something to be aware of. They have pretty good documentation for how to do cron within SSM, including a separate section for associations. Because a lot of the systems manager things that use cron use the cron that we're all familiar with, but associations doesn't. So not even within SSM is your cron the same. So look for the doco. It's actually pretty good. Give a few examples. While I normally advocate for doing things IAC, this is one of those things where I think utilizing the console is also a good thing. More so just, again, because the cron is a little bit skew-if, jump into the console, put your cron entry in there that you want, go to click next and see if it accepts it. Because if it doesn't, it'll do some checks and it'll let you know, hey, this doesn't work. So just for that aspect alone, it's probably good just to quickly jump in, check that your cron entry is fine. And if you've got that fine, then go and use your IAC. And the final point on there is it's still UTC only. This is, I think AWS has made a lot of improvements. There used to be almost everything was just UTC. They've improved a lot of things with local times now. Unfortunately, SSM, State Manager Associations, is not one of them. So, make sure you set your timings to allow for the fact that there's no daylight saving. Next thing, making sense of your alerts, right? This is talking about EventBridge. EventBridge is awesome. The alerts that you get out, if you're sending through SNS to find out what's going on, it's great. But like your track teams, they have so much data, a lot of telemetry coming in, or that they need something that they can actually see and read easily. Not something like this, right? If you're just getting an EventBridge output, send that straight out to an SNS topic. This is what you get, and that's only part of it. And it's not formatted, it's just in a single line. So, right, if you've got that, say, going through to, ServiceNow, some help desk product, right, go through, raise a ticket, and your poor little help desk guy gets in there and goes, where the hell do I send this? What is this? What does it mean? Right? As I said there, this sort of thing might be great for Lambdas. If you're sending your EventBridge through to a Lambda and you've got all your data in there and you can format it, great. Code, great for code. But for humans, it's just no. I mean, I can read this, but it takes me a little bit. help desk guys or anyone else, they want to see something like this, right? That is taken from that output. I mean, what would you rather see? So how do we get to that? EventBridge has this thing called input transforms. Really nice. The AWS console generally, I would say, is functional. It'll do what you sort of need. This is one of those ones where I think they've actually done fairly well with the console and the GUI for how to create your transforms, right? You sort of get this screen with 4 boxes. First box, you can choose some sample output. So, whatever your EventBridge rule is that you want, they've got sample output that you can match, which is great. Or if you've already been getting these SNS email outputs and you're like, what the hell? You can actually copy and paste in something that you've been getting. You then have a section which talks about all the variables. So that is sort of broken up into different sections, and you can work out that, put that in and create variables out of that. You then have a final box, which is sort of what your text is going to be with the variables inside it. And the really nice part is it's then got a test button, which will let you actually see what your text with your variables is going to look like with some actual input. I do say there, think about your audience, because one of the cool things that you can do, match your text to where it's going to go. So if you're sending it off to a ticketing system that's going to be viewed by someone on the help desk, do something a bit simpler, something that's easy and will let them know where to send it, and enough information to give your text the info to know where to go. If it's going directly to your text, then throw in more info. Do what you need, but yeah, when you're creating your own text output, you need to have a bit of a think about what's your audience going to be and how do you want it to look. And finally, one of the cool things with EventBridge now is once you've gone through and put your rule in and done your transforms in your GUI, there's now a button to create CloudFormation from that rule that you've click opsed. Now, why would you want to do that if you've already click opsed it through? Well, if you've got something cool like, maybe not necessarily gadget alerts, but one of the things I've used it for a lot is AWS health events, right? You want to throw that through all of your things. Hey, you got your CloudFormation template. Or even just once you've got a template and you know how things go, you can just sort of code it up and you may not necessarily need the GUI. I would still recommend using the GUI for each new thing each transform that you want, because you want to be able to see what your content is going to look like, right? And this is a bit of a view of how it actually looks once you've got it. As I said, I generally have an AWS health event that I throw out. So this is the sort of thing, your input path that creates the variables that you want to utilize and associates those with the different elements of your JSON. And then you have your input template, which is the text that people are going to see, and your variables in your brackets there. So, and how you find it, because that can be a little bit confusing, because when you go in and have a look to edit your rules, in your targets, there's an additional details section, and it's under there. The default, excuse me, is matched event, but if you drop down, you can, under where that matched event is, you can choose input transformer, and that's where you enter all that in. But as I said too, with your thinking about your audience, because you can have multiple targets to your rule, you can send off different transforms for your service desk or out to your tech people or whatever. So, Oop, wrong way. All right, so final topic that I've got, actually going to talk about a few different tools here, and it's about ways to safely access your resources. Right, your F1 teams, you got your garage, a whole lot of tools there that you can use that travels around with them all the time. You know, cool little pods, they've got everything that they need. Cloud Shell is your analog there. If you don't use it, like, check it out. Like, it is awesome. It's got so many tools pre-installed. You know, your CLI, it's got your SAM tools, it's got CDK, it's got Python, it's got Docker, kubectl, it's got Git. The really cool thing is, because it's running on a Linux backend, it's also got DNF and Yum. So if there's a tool that you need that it doesn't have, which will probably be fairly surprising because there is a massive list of tools, but you can install your own, right? And it's secure. Because you access it after you've already logged in and authenticated yourself, your Cloud Shell, your CLI, your tools don't need any extra credentials. You're already authenticated, so you don't need to worry about setting up any of your profiles or tokens or anything like that. It's all there for you, already done. It's awesome. It also has a nice feature you can upload and download. So one of the things that I use it for a lot is running AWS CLI commands to pull information about different resources, output that to like a text file, and then you can download that locally. I usually use a output text and call it as a .csv and then throw that into our Excel, and so really handy for that. And the cool thing is it's the same everywhere. And it's sitting right there. All you need is a browser. So very cool. One of the things that you used to have a problem with though is, like a lot of AWS tools, it ran outside of your VPC. So while you had your AWS CLI and you could use Session Manager, which I'll talk about in a sec, to connect in, or you could use your CLI commands to query stuff and make things. If you wanted to SSH into a server, you're out of luck. Not that long ago, though, they introduced a VPC option, right? So this doesn't come by default when you first launch Cloud Shell, but you'll see next to your little Cloud Shell environment, there's a little plus. You can open a new tab, and from there you can select to launch a Cloud Shell inside your VPC. So yeah, if you then need to do things like SSHing in or whatever, you've got that access now. You can do things on a server inside your VPC. Obviously, you need to make sure you've got your security group rules to allow this, that inbound and stuff. But yeah, that's now an option that they didn't have before, and quite nice. So I don't use that very often, but I do. The only thing with Cloud Shell that does sort of freak some people out a bit, especially if you have set up AWS Health Alerts, is if you don't use your Cloud Shell session for, I think it's like 30 days, AWS Health comes back and says, hey, we're about to delete your environment. Because it does keep your environment around for a bit. And again, because you can upload and download things into it, and you might have files or things in there that you want to keep, it will let you know. And if you haven't used it for a while, it will terminate that environment. So it just gives you a bit of a heads up beforehand. One of the other things that I also really love, and it's now incorporated into the GUI, Session Manager. This is awesome. So now you can have your garages all locked up. Before I go in, quick question. Who knows where this is? Albert Park, yeah. That's a local one for us. Yeah, so if you want to get into your system securely, Session Manager. This is awesome. I love it. I use it all the time. I mean, you've probably seen, if you've got any EC2 instances, you've now got a little connect button. This is what it uses, Session Manager. There is some config that you need to do, so you need to have an agent installed. That agent needs to be able to talk to the SSM service, so either it needs to go out to the internet, or better, you have a VPC endpoint configured, and your servers also need to have appropriate permissions, role attached to allow that. But once you've got it all set up, awesome. Natively, it'll give you SSH and PowerShell, so that's your little connect button. But you can also do RDP from there, which is really nice if you've got Windows servers that you're looking after as well. Click your connect, go to your Fleet Manager button, and you get a little RDP session running in your browser, which is very nice, very handy. You don't need to go into other things. It does only work with the default RDP port, so like one of my clients, for some of their environments, have non-standard RDP, so I can't use this. But anywhere that does have it, it's a really nice and handy way to log in and connect to your Windows servers without having to use jump boxes and RDP clients and all that sort of thing. So really handy, gives you secure access without needing, and your servers don't need to be able to get out to the internet to be able to access them from this. So very handy, nice secure way to connect to your servers. The extra point is you can access that as well from your AWS CLI. So you don't just have to do it through the browser, through your console. There is a special plugin for Session Manager. So if you've got your AWS CLI, that's great. Then jump in, just do a search for Session Manager plugin. Download the Session Manager plugin, and then you can use, AWS SSM Session Manager and connect. Again, default, it will give you your native SSH or PowerShell if it's a Windows server, right? But they've got some extra run documents that you can utilize, which gives you port forwarding. So the one that they example that they give is for RDP. So you can port forward your RDP and then fire up your RDP client on your laptop, set it to localhost and whatever port you've got, and you're connecting to your Windows instance via RDP securely. Your Windows server does not need to have any external access at all. So you just need to authenticate yourself like you would normally do, running any AWS CLI commands, and you've got the access. All right? But wait, there is more. They also have a remote port forwarding option. So if you've got an it does require an EC2 that you can connect to. Whatever EC2 that EC2 can connect to, you can sort of forward through there. So if you've got an RDS database, if you've got an EC2 that can talk to that RDS database, you can do a remote port forward through to that RDS database, and you can run your SQL workspace on your laptop, connect to localhost with the port, and you're managing your RDS. Sorry, hang on. If someone got a mic, just bring that up. So,
Sorry, who was that? Always the troublemaker.
So, if you're using the AWS CLI with the SSH management side of things with a token connecting into something, like an EC2 instance, what's the difference with that as well? So you could use the AWS CLI to do the same thing anyway.
Yeah, so the session manager plugins that you've got, right? So the CLI, so the session manager plugin lets you connect to like inside your server. So anything that your SSM agent will let you do. So you can SSH in, which you can't do.
Well, I mean, you could set up an Ubuntu server or something like that and you SSH into the Ubuntu server through the CLI load.
But you don't. Now, that Ubuntu server that you connect up will need to be able to, you'll need to get into that somehow, right? So like using that as a jump box or something, right? You don't need any jump boxes.
No, you can get around it by using tokens. You put the tokens through the SSH and you connect up the tokens to the instance or whatever you're setting up and then you put it into it.
But how are you going to connect to that server? You need
to have the port open, obviously.
Exactly. Yeah. So this, you don't need any ports open. So that's where you get that benefit, right? I'll show you well, actually, let me jump to that now. All right, so I've run through this. This has mostly been just me talking and telling you how cool these things are without like a whole lot of pictures and tech stuff. With a recap, so for SSM associations, like just search that up. They're pretty simple and straightforward. I've got a blog post in Dev2 talking about your event bridge transforms. It'll go through that step by step. So give you a guide there. If you just search up in Dev2 for Sheriff 6410 event bridge transform, hopefully you'll find my post. Now, I've also got an SSM demo in GitHub. So in there, I sort of talk you through how to set everything up. As I said, like you need to have the agent installed. Now, that comes default with quite a few AMIs, but not everything. Notably, Red Hat and CentOS and Fedora don't have. So they don't have it, but like your Windows, I think SUSE, definitely your AWS, Amazon Linux have that already installed. So yeah, I talked about how to go and configure that, go through the GUI, but then I have some examples of how to set up an access utilizing the CLI. And in that example, I have an EC2, the security group around it has no outbound or no inbound access. Anything that has the SSM agent in it. Yeah. So, yeah, as long as it's got the SSM agent, you can do those. So yeah, as I said, in that example, it's got like nothing. There's no internet gateway in the VPC that I create. The server itself, the security group around it has no access, and you can just connect in. I mean, it has, sorry, when I say no external access, it does need to be able to get out to the VPC endpoint, but that's it. That's the only access that it has. And yeah, you can just SSH into it, run any of the commands. So that's really the power of it. And then especially with your port forwarding, So, if you're running a web server on there and you want to, like an internal web server and you want to check things, yeah. So, yeah. Now, I do have one further slide and a bit of a call to action for people. If you haven't heard about it, AWS has a new builder.aws.com. That's sort of, they're putting all of their community portal stuff in there. One of the really cool things that it has is a wish list. So if there is a feature that you want, or there's something that doesn't work the way that you think it should, you can put in a wish list item. Help me try and convince AWS to put local time zones in for SSM associations. Jump on the wish list, have a look for me, look for time zones or search. Actually, Rob, can you scoot my image across? There we go. If you look for the tags, I've got AWS Systems Manager or Cloud Operations. In your search, try and find me, and you can upvote me. And hopefully AWS will see that and get the message that they really should be putting local zones into local time zone into State Manager Association. So that is it for my talk. Does anyone have any questions? Or you can always see me at the end. So awesome. Thank you.
Were there any questions for Jason?
Yeah, see me at the end. I've gone over.
All right.
Oh, right on. Cool. And
Okie day. Next up, we have Dale and Mahesh up to present on agents. Again, I asked them how they would like me to introduce them. They said they don't care, so it's...
That guy as well.
Yeah, that guy and that girl.
There we are.
Yeah. More people from the community that you want to hear from, instead of me.
We probably should have tested this beforehand, but anyway.
All good. Test in prod.
What do we do? This?
This one.
That one?
Yep.
Okay.
You should be good to go.
Somebody want that one, or do we want?
I think should we... Yeah, I guess
Hand
both
hold
of
it.
us are talking, so we'll need one each.
Easy done.
Is there a spot here? That'd be good to have a... There is not. Yeah, that would be... Well, thank you all for coming tonight. I'm really excited to be with you. Myself and Mahesh will be presenting a session on AI Strands agents. Just out of curiosity here, raise of hands, who has heard of the AI Strands SDK before? Yeah. Okay, so we've got a few. Keep your hands up if you've actually used it before. So about 4 or 5. Okay, that's good. Because tonight this will be an introduction. So we're going to start from the very basics about what it is and how you go about building it. We do have a lot of demonstrations that we're going to do at the end. We're trying to keep this very practical. I will say these are live demos, so we are tempting fate here. We're hoping the demo gods will be on our side. We have about 4 to get through. We're also hotspotting off my phone, so I do like to live life on the edge. Hopefully we do have success. Anyway, so to start, the agenda. So as I said, we're going to start by looking at what a Strands agent is. We're then going to delve into the key components of a Strands agent. We're then going to build a very basic Strands agent, like the most minimal lines of codes that you need in order to successfully build the agent. We're then going to discuss implementation, looking specifically at tools, models, and memory. We're then going to very briefly touch on Model Context Protocol, or MCP. We're going to look at 2 different types of multi-agent design. So there's lots of different ways that you can actually design an AI application. Obviously, we don't have time to discuss them all, so we're just going to focus on 2, and then that's going to lead us into our demo. So we're actually, if we have time, we're going to go through how to actually build out those 2 designs, and then we're going to deploy to AWS. So hopefully that sounds good, because that's what we're doing. Okay, so to start, what is Strands Agent SDK? So Strands Agent is an open source SDK that enables you to develop and deploy AI applications. So in a very simplified definition, that's exactly what it is. It integrates with third-party tooling, so we will look at some third-party tooling later on. It supports various LLM models, or language learning models, and MCP, which we mentioned earlier. And we will see some examples later, so it's fine if you have no idea what I'm talking about. And it is very flexible in design, and it offers fast implementation. So that's the great thing about this particular SDK, is that it allows us to build and deploy these applications very quickly. With very little code, you'll see just how little code we need in order to actually build out an agent. So let's look at the basics of an agent. So an agent is going to have instructions, or what we call a prompt. It is then going to perform some actions, depending upon the prompt that you provide. And it's going to have access to a knowledge base. So think about a knowledge base as a repository of information that the agent can refer to. And then, of course, we have our LLM at the bottom there. We're going to be using Amazon Bedrock as our provider, but you can use other providers. I mean, this is an AWS meetup, so we're only going to be using AWS today, but just know that you can use others. So let's see an example of this in action. We have here an HR policy assistant, and I'm going to give it the instructions. You are a HR agent helping employees understand HR policies and manage leave requests. So I mentioned knowledge base and actions. So if I look at this particular policy agent, the knowledge base may be the leave policy of the company. So I may provide the assistant with access to the company's leave policy, so it knows to refer to that particular knowledge base in fulfilling the user's requirements. And the actions. So if we're designing this for an employee, they want to be able to request vacation or request leave. They need to input a start date and an end date, and it needs to output approval status and remaining balance. And I've just, if you can see here along the side, I've actually just put an example of how this conversation may transpire. So I'm trying to keep a very real-world example to hopefully make a difficult or a confusing concept hopefully a little bit easier to understand. And it also integrates with existing resources. So again, using the same example, if I have a HR policy agent here, we have 3 different elements, you could say. We have the knowledge base. I could use that knowledge base to integrate with my HR policy docs, which you can see there at the top. I can do leave of absence action. So that is the second row that you see. I can actually then integrate that with a vacation microservice. If I am hosting my vacation database remotely, I can actually develop a service to make an API call to that database. And then finally, the leave of absence action. Sorry, the video is cutting it off, but that could be, say, a remote database. And again, I can integrate that with that particular functionality that the agent offers. So, very real-world example of how it is that you could actually build this agent. Let's look at some of the key components. So I've been using various terms, but hopefully this will clarify these terms if you haven't heard of these before. We have the prompt, which are the instructions that guide the agent's behavior. You can have both the system prompt as well as the user prompt, and they can work together in tandem in order to fulfill a query. We obviously have the agent. So the agent combines the language model, the tools, and the system prompt into a single callable unit. We have tools. So a tool is simply a function that enables the agent to perform certain capabilities. And we will see some examples of these in just a minute. And finally, we have the model. And the model orchestrates the processing of data in order to satisfy the prompt. Now this is maybe a little bit of a confusing concept. I'm hoping the picture helps to clarify things a little bit, but this here is essentially how this works. We have the prompt, which invokes the agent. We then have the model, which orchestrates the response, so it selects both how and when to use the tools. And this works together. This is what we call a model-driven approach. So this actually works together in an iterative fashion. So the model will continuously loop throughout the tools until such time as it's adequately satisfied the prompt. So if we think about it as a loop, it works together in order to fulfill the requirements of the prompt and then return that to the user. So I know it's a lot of theory, and hopefully it's fine if you're completely confused. We will go through some examples. Moving into the practical side of things. So as I said, the SDK, one of the best things about the SDK is that you can actually build an agent using very few lines of code. So you'll see here on the screen, we have 3 lines of code, and we have built a basic strands agent in just 3 lines of code. What we have, before we can actually build it, we do have to import the library, which will install the library, which is pip install strands. Our first line, we import the agent class. So you can see that there. We then have to instantiate the agent, which is our second line. And we're just using the default settings, so you'll see I haven't passed through any parameters. And then finally, the last line, I am going to be invoking the agent using this prompt. Tell me about AWS AI agents. So that is my prompt. And I know this is a little bit difficult to see, but if you run this, this is what the agent will output. It will actually tell you about AWS AI agents. And it's actually quite lengthy. That's just the start of the response. So that is a very simple way showing you how it is that you can use this agent. But obviously, you want to have more functionality. And if you want more functionality, you need tools. So to install tools, you need to run pip install strands agent tools. That's our tools library. It offers over 20 pre-built tools that you can import. So when I say pre-built, that means that they're readily available for you to use. But it also allows you to actually create custom tools. So if you use the @tool decorator, you can actually create your own tools as well. And we will see examples of that in just a moment. So looking at this code here, I start by importing my dependencies. You'll see in the second line there, I'm importing calculator. That is an inbuilt tool that I will be using. Below that, I am creating a custom tool. And you can tell it's a custom tool because I have the @tool decorator at the top. This particular tool is called random number. And what it's going to do is it's going to generate a random number between 1 and 10. I then pass that through to my agent. So you'll see I instantiate my agent, and this time I'm actually passing through 2 parameters. The first is tools. So you see that I'm passing through my inbuilt, my pre-built or inbuilt tool, which was calculator, as well as my custom tool, random number. And I'm passing through both of those because if we look at my prompt, you're a helpful agent. You can do simple math calculations and generate random numbers. So in order for this agent to fulfill that prompt, it needs to have access to both of those two tools. Okay? It needs to have the calculator tool in order to do the simple math calculation, and it needs the random number custom tool in order to generate a random number. Okay? Underneath that, I'm going to invoke the agent, and I'm going to ask it to generate a random number between 1 and 10, and to tell me what it is, and to tell me what is 10 times 6. So I've asked it to generate both a random number and to do a calculation, and the output would be something like this. I don't know if you can see, but trust me, it actually does it. So that there is how you can use inbuilt tools as well as create your own using custom tooling. I now will pass it over to Mahesh, who's going to tell you about models and how you can incorporate those into your agents.
Thank you, Dale. So I'm going to repeat the basic concepts that Dale has described and has shown. So the tools is something that has to perform the function for the agent. Agent is something which will perform some actions and which will deliver some results based on those actions. And what we left, and LLMs, we know that it's a large language model. So regarding strands models, we have a couple of options, a variety of options to be used. The default model for the AWS strand is the Amazon Bedrock 784. So besides that, we can use our own custom models. The custom models includes the Anthropic, Light LLM, Olama, OpenAI, and others as well. So all the lists are not listed in the slide, but you can use any of the available open source. So the default is the Cloud Sonnet, and let's go into, and the one problem you may receive while you try running the default agent is you may receive an error like SS denied error, because you need to request the SS model for the AWS. If you don't request earlier or previously, then you will receive error. Make sure to request the SS for the particular model that you want to run. So let's go into the implementation of the Bedrock models. So we simply import the Bedrock model from the Strandstate model. Then after we create the instance for the Bedrock model. So Bedrock model is just a variable that keeps the Bedrock model. And before, if you have noticed that while Dale was presenting, she called the agent without any parameter inside the agent. Now I'm calling the agent with a model as a parameter. So now the model takes Bedrock model as an argument, so it will be using the specific model that I determined to use. So in our example, I have given the model ID as a Cloudy 37 Sonnet. So now it will, instead of using the default model, now it will use our model ID. So I'm calling the agent and I'm asking hello to the agent. Now let's see the output. So it replies with hello, how I assist you today. Feel free, ask any question or let me know what you will do to discuss. So this is the basic example which shows that we can use the Bedrock model, our own model, by specifying the model ID. So let's go into the strands memory. So yeah, we did talk about the models, how we can specify the models. The reason why we are only showing the Bedrock model is since this is the AWS event, that's why we are only showing the Bedrock. But you can simply call their Anthropic model and provide the model ID and give that model ID to the agent. So it will be using the Anthropic model. So let's go into the strand memory now. So memory-less agents keep the context and learn from the past integration using the instant built-in tools. As we know now, tools is something that helps to perform the function. So we now also now the AWS strands also provides the memory tool. So what does that memory tool do? Memory, the name is still itself speaks. It preserves the value that we are intended to. If we want to save some value or some context in the running agent, we can simply save those values in the agent. For example, okay, this memo is the library, is the module which is provided by AWS Strands, which we can simply import in order to save our values. Let's go into the implementation. As I've already described, you can simply import the memo memory, then after here, tool again. Yeah, tool decorator means it is a tool. Tool means it does some functions. So store is a function that does some work. What it does, it says the values X is we intended to save it. So we'll see later on how it receives. So if we go on the next line, we simply provide the memory, the module that we imported from the AWS strand into the memory argument, so that the agent knows now we want to use its memory for its context. So let's go into the another line of the code, print agent store high. So now we are telling the agent, okay, agent, please store the value high. So how does it know that where it should store the value high? Because we have already given the tool function store with a memo 0 memory the set. So now it knows to save the values in the memory. So if you want to retrieve that memory, like memory or variable, so we just simply call recall. Why we get the value after calling the recall? Because it's a tool, it's a functions that helps to get the memory, because there is a line memo memory dot get the value of the X. So we get the value of the specified variable. So let's go into the next topic, model context protocol. I think you all are familiar with the MCP protocol. It's a trending topic. One popular example in the MCP protocol is booking flight tickets. If there are multiple flight websites that helps to book the flight for you, there is always different APIs provided for the different websites. So how the AI will know which website provides the which API? So all these things are considered in the MCP server. We define some rules that the AI should follow in order to get those APIs and book the ticket for us. So model context protocol provides an interface connecting AI models to diverse data source and tools. As I already described, think of it a website is APIs connections, so that the agent wants to make, and they are the resources, but agent doesn't know how to use their resources. So we define the rules in the MCP server so that it can directly connect with those websites. So let's go into other. MCP servers can supply agents with additional, that's the same thing I described. Okay, let's go into the multi-agent AI design. So it can be like, if you think of an agent, there could be the multiple agent as well, because one agent can simply communicate with the other agent also. Also, since agent is specific to some functions, one agent will perform some functions and the other agent will perform the some function. So what if they want to communicate? Yeah, they can communicate easily through the A2A protocol as well. So simply in the figure first, if you see like there is a sub agent 1 and sub agent 2, in this we can simply think of there is an input. The input goes to the first agent, it performs its tasks, then provides to second agent, which is not related to anything. They don't relate, but it only takes the input, processes and provide the output. And in the next picture, if we see there is a hierarchy, there is a root agent which is controlling other agents. So every output of those agents will be monitored by the root agent, then only the final output will be connected and sent to the user. So there are multiple architecture for designing the AI agents as well. So it depends upon the use case, what we want to do. Demo time, yeah.
Hello. Okay, awesome. So hopefully that made things clear. Certainly, as we said, this is very much an introduction. We are now going to move on to the demos. So for anyone who's interested, all of the code from today's session is on this GitHub here. So because we are strapped for time, we're only going to be doing steps 4, 5, and 6 from the repo, but you're certainly welcome to go on there yourself and to do some of the earlier steps. All of the instructions are included. Sorry, I just have to, yeah, so this here, as I said, oh, can't see it. Oh, I've done the wrong thing again. Can we see? No, this is me. Okay. Yes, okay, awesome, sorry, that was me. Okay, so this is the repo. As I said, all of the code will be there. We're now going to move on to the demo. So we're going to start, as I said, starting with step 4. I will hand it back to Mahesh, who's going to run us through step 4, step 5. I'll do step 6. And then if we have time, hopefully we get to deploy to AWS. Yep. There you are.
Thank you. I hope you have remembered the concept. Like, it's just a basic demo. So we are showing you the step 4, which is from the Dell GitHub repository. So I'm running the demo. Before running, I'll explain that what does it does. But let me copy the command so that, yeah, where is that? Sorry. Okay.
Oh, yes, of course. Sorry. All right. Does that? I know, I'm very untechnical for someone who works in this industry. It's a worry. Okay. Is that Command plus? Is that okay? Cool. Is that cool? Awesome. Just to clarify too, we do have the instructions on the left-hand side. So if you're not sure what we're doing, the instructions are there, same as what's in the GitHub repo. And we're just running this line of code. Mahesh will explain what the code does.
Yep. So going back to my previous explanation, I have explained that why MCP servers are necessary, how it will book the ticket for us if there are multiple websites which use the different APIs. So now also in this demo, we are using the MCP client. The MCP client, which MCP client we are using now? We are using the AWS MCP client. So the basic question, why the AWS created the MCP client server? So the answer is because there are too many APIs, so AWS defined a certain format for the APIs to be so that the agent can easily track down what to be used. So if we go here, this is the demo. So in the first 3 lines, there is simply import the Python library modules that are necessary. For example, agent, MCP client, studio client. Studio client means the standard input-output client. So let's go into the MCP client. So we are simply creating the object, calling the MCP client class. So we provide the argument as a MCP server. This server is given by the AWS. So we simply use the server given by the AWS, that is MCP server. So this is the command which has to run the server. And if we go below, we have also given the system prompt. So what does the system prompt say? You are an expert AWS certified solution architect. Your role is to help customers understand best practices on building AWS. You can querying the AWS document. So we simply say that you query the AWS document and you are the best in doing this and provide me the solution which I asked for you. So we open the context manager. I think all we are familiar with the Python. So AWS doc client is a context manager. So we simply open the context manager, and if we want to see it, tools used, we can just simply do tools using.
Yep, for 10
Yeah.
minutes.
So
Let's run it.
yeah, now running it, we'll get the output. Let's see the output. So if we
Okay.
see, we can see the stable. So
So you can see it's making these API calls to the AWS documentation, and you can actually see it's going to be making multiple calls. So it goes through each of those sources to derive as much information as it can in order to fulfill the prompt. There's a lot of information there. We're not going to read through it all. But the prompt that I gave, the user in prompt, was to get the documentation for AWS Lambda. Obviously, you can refine that prompt. You can say, in 100 words or something a little bit more efficient than what we did. But yeah, that's a very easy example of how you can use MCP in order to interact with MCP servers like AWS. Cool, we'll move on to the next.
yeah, let's move on to the next demo.
Which is this one here. Yep, multi-agent, that one there. Lovely. Okay, yep, that one. I'll say, yeah. Or you might have to go here.
Thank you.
That's all right. Yeah.
So let's see the multi-agent demo. So there can be the situation where we want to use the multiple agents to perform certain tasks. So I think we have a short period of time. I'll explain in brief like what we are doing in this file. So we are just importing the required libraries, and we are also importing the fast API in order to run the server. Why we are running server, you'll see in the later on. So this is a system prompt we give to the agent. We say like you are a geography assistant with the HTTP capabilities, and you have to visit this site and replace the spaces with underscore. If there is New Zealand, then just replace with new underscore Zealand. If the response is this ambiguous space, try again with the country name. When responding, what are the rules when responding? Clearly state the capital city, include a concise, human-friendly description, handle errors gracefully. If the country is not found, response is ambiguous. Okay. So this command prompt is for the one agent, geo agent system. And another command prompt is for the currency agent. So what is the prompt? You are a currency converter assistant. You go to this site and convert the currency and provide the written value. So why we are getting two prompts? Because there are two agents. So we'll be giving the two prompts to different agents. So simply tool, if you see the tool, simply consider as a function which does some things. So it will be used by the agent, and we are using here Bedrock model, Cloud 3.5, and let's go to the agent. Okay. So geo agent and the currency agent are the two different agents. If you see agent, we are giving the Bedrock model, same Bedrock model which we defined earlier. Mm-hmm. So if you go in the system prompt,
it's good to notice also too, like I'm just adding on to what you're saying, we are using the same model for both, but you can theoretically create another model, and they can each have their own they can each have a different model, okay? So simplicity purposes, we're just doing that way, but certainly you could each have their own model.
Thank you. So if you see tools are registered, and word count is our own custom tool, and the HTTP requests and HTTP requests are the tools provided by the AWS Strength. So we use the orchestrator. Why we use that? Because if you see here, we have created the server using the fast API. Okay, using the fast API, which determines which request should be sent to the which server or which agent. So
I'll just clean this up. You keep going. Yeah,
Okay.
keep going.
So now we'll be running the server for the fast API so that we can send the request to the terminal. So let me run the server.
Sorry, I'm just like an agent here. I'm trying to be an assistant, helping in the background.
Yeah.
We do have our orchestrator. We're going to check to see if our orchestrator is working correctly. Now, it should look at the user prompt. If the user prompt has convert AUD or currency, it should be able to direct it to the currency agent, okay? We don't want it to go to the geo agent because that's not what the request is. So we will first start the server. Let's start it on port 8001. And I'm going to test it. The first API call will be to convert 100 AUD to Japanese yen. Let's see. Does it correctly identify that this is a currency converter? And it does. So if you can see here, this is a currency conversion. And we have 100 AUD equals just over 9,500 Japanese yen. So that is correct, but I will do the other just to show you that that agent is working as well. So our orchestrator will have to recognize that this particular command, tell me about New Zealand, that this should go to the geo agent. So I'm going to run this, and we can see from the response, I hope people can see, it's a little bit. Is it too small at the back? No, it's all good. So you can see here, capital city is Wellington. It's given me a description of New Zealand, and it's given me the word count as well. So it's correctly identified that that is a question about geography, and it has satisfied the prompt, okay? The prompt that we gave it at the very top here, so which Mahesh went through earlier. It satisfied that prompt. So,
before you go into
sorry.
step 5, so this is a live example how the agent in tool works. Me, the agent, wants to show you the demo and show you the output, but I don't have a right tool. So who is the tool? Dale. Dale comes here and rescue me through the tool. So she shows the demo, she shows the output. So this is a live example of how the agent and tool works correspondingly.
Okay,
yeah,
we're going to have to very quickly, sorry, we won't have time to actually deploy this to AWS, unfortunately, but we will go through the last demo that we have, which is step 6. So this is this, workflow agent. So I'll go through this very quickly, but basically we start by importing our dependencies. We are using logging, so you can use logging with AWS Strands. It's an example there. We then have our prompts. So in this case, I'm actually using 3 agents. They are going to be working sequentially, so the output of one agent is going to be the input of the next agent. The first agent is going to be the holiday destination agent. It is going to be an expert travel agent, and it is going to recommend a single holiday destination. The destination that it recommends will then be passed through to the second agent, who is going to create a detailed 5-day itinerary for that location. And then the third agent is going to generate a budget for that 5-day holiday itinerary. So, and it's going to have to express that in US dollars. Okay, sorry, I'm rushing. Oh, how much we got? Sorry, very, very. Okay, so very quickly, there are 3 agents we're passing through. Each has its own prompt. They're using the same model. We are going to very quickly run this just to prove that it works. Sorry, I'm at the wrong place, at the very bottom here. Whereabouts? Oh, sorry, for some reason I've gone up. Okay, so that is the code there, and sorry. Okay, so we're going to start the server on port 8002. Okay, so we'll run that. Oh, sorry. Okay. Run the server. Okay, let's try that again. Maybe this is where our luck ends. Okay. Oh, do I? Oh, I know what I'm doing wrong. Okay, sorry. Okay, here. Sorry, excuse me. I'll just have to. We'll just pretend this didn't happen. Okay, now let's try that again. Oh, okay, we'll try a different one. We'll go through. Okay, all right, now it's working. Cool. And let's pass through we were up to step 6. All right, it's stressful when there's a time limit. Okay, here we go. Let's, gosh, why is this jumping all around the place? Okay, where is my command? That is my code, way too much code. Okay, here we go. I want a relaxing beach holiday with cultural experiences. That sounds lovely. Sorry? Oh. Oh, the port. Oh, okay, sorry. Thank you. Guys are better at this. You should be teaching this. Okay.
You've been speaking right now and you have no reason not to give a talk.
Okay, there we go. Okay. Okay, here we go. And it's recommended Bali, which sounds lovely. So we can see here it's given me the location Bali, Indonesia. That's the first agent. And it's provided the description that we can see there. The second agent is giving me the itinerary, the 5-day itinerary. So we can see exactly what we'll be doing on our lovely holiday in Bali. And then the last agent at the bottom, where is it here? Here is our budget. I don't know if everyone can see that. It's quite small. I'll try and enlarge it. But you can see it's given me a budget for that holiday. So that is the third agent that has generated that costing for us. So you can see how we've got 3 agents working in sequence in order to fulfill that query. And that is an example of how you can use AWS Strands. I don't think we have any more time to do demos, so we will conclude there. But before we finish, I'll just play from current side. I will just put on the screen. That is my LinkedIn. That's Mahesh's LinkedIn. You're very, very welcome to connect with us. And as I said, all of the code from today's session is on the GitHub repo. So if you want to go through and do some of those yourself, you may want to play around with it, make some more agents, modifications. Yeah, very welcome to do so. Thank you. Oh, sorry. That's what, sorry? Oh my gosh, I'm like such a narcissist. I put my own name twice.
The QR codes are different, so you'll be fine.
Okay, yeah. That is embarrassing. I didn't even realize that. That does look really narcissistic. I've just put myself twice. I hope that doesn't lead to also my. Okay. I was going to say that would be terrible if I also put both of my LinkedIns and both of my email addresses there. That would be. Yeah, sorry. No, I really should thank Mahesh because he came through last minute to help me deliver this. So, yeah, amazing. Thank you.
We might also put the GitHub code repo up on the Slack channel. So if people want to grab it after the fact. Just thinking for the people at home too.
Sure.
Cool. In the interest of time, if anybody's got any questions, feel free to bail these people up after at the end. Right.
Just on something.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I'm not going to bother. Actually, I will put my slides up because I've got to do a quick thank you. No, it's okay. All good.
There you are.
Oh, good.
Cool. And that's my phone.
And I've got slides here somewhere.
Hello. Great. Sorry. Thank you.
All right. So that brings us to the end of meetup number 151. We do have our quick marketplace segment. So the way we typically do this, just to keep people from getting in trouble with their potential employers that may be either in the room or watching online, is anybody looking for staff? Anybody looking to employ? No? Anybody mark jobs in? Okay, well that was a short segment. Okie dokie. if anybody is looking for a job, I'm not necessarily saying we have any, but come and have a chat to me. Happy to have a talk. Yes? Would you like a microphone?
Sorry. I work for Five9, which is a telecommunications company. They're based in San Francisco, and we have remote work. Anyway, it's fully remote, and I believe we have 3 positions in Australia, senior and staff software engineer positions. So come see me if you're interested. If you're interested,
one of those,
yeah,
go have a chat to Dale. And with that, I would like to thank our sponsors, Mantel Group, Sevo, and NAB, for helping us put on tonight. Ignore that because I forgot to update that slide. So that should actually say the last Wednesday in September, whatever the date that happens to be. I should probably know, but I don't. So 10, 14, 20, 30th? Yeah. 24th. There you go. So the 24th of September, right here, same time, same place. It'll be different speakers though. So, and you probably won't need to listen to me MC either. So, also, yay. With that, thank you all for coming. We will see you. Food rubbish. Yes. So we will see you next time. We are out of food, so no food to take home tonight. But there are drinks and there are chopsticks. So if you would like some chopsticks or you would like some drinks, please feel free. Help yourselves. Make sure you pick up any rubbish that's around you, empty cans, empty bottles, things like that. The bins are just outside the door. Other than that, we will see you all next month.